when it comes to birth, the biggest thing is, again, that parasympathetic nervous system. So when you're in a sympathetic state, which is stress, your body is not going to want to deliver a baby. And if you look to nature, all animals will put themselves in a safe, dark, or parasympathetic environment because it is a physiological need of the body to be safe and feel not stressed and to be in that parasympathetic mode in order to initiate labor.
Let's ditch the quick fix and dive into today's conversation. Welcome, everybody. My guest today is Dr. Leah Gordon. Dr. Leah is the founder of Womanhood Wellness. Dr. Leah is a licensed naturopath, functional medicine doctor, and fertility consultant specializing in natural fertility, natural IVF support, root cause hormone balancing, and integrative women's reproductive health. Her passion behind Womanhood Wellness was sparked out of her own personal story. She loves educating and empowering women prior to pregnancy so that they can shift their own health and life trajectory, and ultimately those of their family and future children. Welcome, Dr. Leah. It is a pleasure to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
So share a little bit more of your background, in naturopathic functional medicine. How did you come to, be who you are today, and maybe a little bit where you want to go?
When you're exposed to a toxin or a chemical, let's say it is an herbicide or a pesticide or some of these volatile organic chemicals, they themselves can actually cause oxidative damage in the body, which is like your body's on fire and it can just destroy lots of different things, especially at a cellular level. And so when you have high oxidation, you can have poor quality eggs and sperm issues. So a lot of them are getting you on a double whammy. They're not only disrupting your hormones, messing with that whole ovulation system if you're a female, or the whole sperm production system by basically pretending to be something they're not, messing with your own, hormones are very amazing and they're like so easily disrupted because they're messengers. They're being sent throughout the body. And if something is in your system kind of intercepting that message, adding to it or taking it away, then you're going to have very real consequences from that. So I imagine them as little imposters that are coming around and just throwing everything off, and the hormones aren't getting to the right places or not in the right amounts. And that's a really, really big deal. And it impacts not only fertility, but also the development of your baby once you are pregnant, and how their hormones are developing at that really crucial time when you only have a window. And once that window's gone, it's gone.
Right. Yeah, such a huge point. And so, we've got those environmental stressors. I know we do some of our own internal stress and mental stress. How's that impact fertility? Just stress in general.
Gosh, yeah, I know. It's like I tell my patients, I know this sounds so cliche and everyone quote unquote knows it, but no one really practices it, of how much stress really impacts fertility. And again, this is kind of twofold in that regard of stress impacts your actual hormonal cascade, your actual symphony or rhythm of hormones. So on a female side, we have to have quite a few things in balance for us to ovulate. And when we're stressed, we borrow building blocks, we borrow different hormones to support that pathway. Mm-hmm. And so I taught a recent webinar, and basically what I described is the way our body is designed. We have our parasympathetic or our sympathetic nervous system, mm-hmm. and they're designed on purpose, really intelligently. When we need to,
I agree.
When we need to kick it into gear, let's say evolutionarily, our sympathetic nervous system needs to kick it into gear to keep us safe. There's a tiger coming, there's a famine, there's something that's very scary. Our body's super smart, and that it's not going to say, you know what, this is a great time for you to have a baby. I'm going to ramp up your desire to have sex and let's totally get you pregnant in the middle of this really intense, scary time. It's just not going to do that. The body basically needs to be in one or the other state at any time. So your body's going to pick either respond to stress, respond to this scary or, nutriently depleting time, or you are in a state of surplus and you can have a baby. You can't have both. They just can't go on at the same time, because our bodies are designed when we're in that sympathetic or stress state to actually shut off the other side, shut off our digestion, shut off our reproduction, shut off our desire to want to reproduce. And so, we are unfortunately living in a society where every day is the tiger and the famine, undernourished, overstressed, yet we wonder, why am I not getting pregnant and why do I not want to have sex? And it's like, it's not a mystery. It's more how do we get your body into that place where it feels this is safe. I am well nourished and super safe to have a baby, because the body's super intelligent and it knows how to rebalance itself, but you have to give it what it needs and you have to take away these obstacles.
Yeah, exactly. So that's probably a good segue into, hey, we've kind of touched on, a little bit of the issues with fertility and hormone imbalance. We haven't really covered it completely in depth, but we definitely covered some territory. And then some of the negative impacts of environmental exposures and stress. So that might lead us into, what are some lifestyle approaches to try to address, stimulating our body's ability to be healthy and be able to maximize potential for fertility and for child carrying, not just conception.
Mm-hmm.
Medical information has become tough to sort through. Between politicization, institutional bias, and mass media, it's become tough to find the things that lead you to getting healthy. The UNAVERAGE Health Summit is a free online video event for people seeking natural methods to kill brain fog, eliminate bloating, blast fatigue, and live optimally. You'll get access to discussions with natural health experts like Dr. McCullough, Dave Asprey, Dr. Petros, Dr. Schaffner, and many others on the cutting edge of medicine. It's happening soon and only available for a limited time. Go to unaveragehealth.com to get your free ticket to this online event. That's unaveragehealth.com. Again, it's free and access is ending soon. This is a great opportunity for you to continue your journey to becoming the best health advocate you can have. Hope you take advantage of this.
Yeah, no, I love this question. And the way that I teach fertility is I like to think of us like a battery pack in a video game, which is really funny because I'm not a video gamer myself, but it really helps people to understand. So
Sure.
If you imagine like a little girl or gal who has to have like a battery pack that's full so that they can jump up to the next level. Every jump up is an expenditure of energy and an expenditure of a lot of vitality, whether that is ovulating or actual having conception or carrying a baby to term, having, healthy enough egg or sperm. You have to have a full charge and enough oomph to get up to the next level. And there are certain things that charge your battery and there are certain things that deplete it. Things that deplete your battery are, staying up too late, watching stressful shows, the news, not sleeping enough, not eating enough, skipping breakfast, drinking coffee without having any sort of, sustenance, not doing things that bring you joy, like a lot of things that people unfortunately have in their life. So I tell my patients, I want you to wake up every day and say, okay, what things am I doing to charge my battery instead? And so this looks like prioritizing sleep first and foremost, but your battery is not just sleep, but it's the foundation. So you have to prioritize sleep. You build growth hormone and testosterone in your sleep if you're a man. So, some of my male patients pride themselves on only sleeping like 4 hours a night so they can get up and work out or whatever. And I'm like, no, this is not. Sleep is the number one priority, first and foremost. Second is nourishment. So fertility does not thrive in a famine state. And I say famine because I think people can really get that like, okay, a group or a people in a famine, I could understand why a body wouldn't want to reproduce. However, strictly intermittent fasting to the point of an eating disorder, not eating nourishing foods, maybe living on bars and not eating real food, not eating, nutrient dense quality whole foods is still perceived by the body like a famine.
Mm-hmm.
And so you really have to tell the body, I am so full of nourishment. I am such in a surplus of healthy, good food that you have more to give, that you're in a state of abundance where you can actually give to another being. Because if you're in a state of depletion, the body's not going to let you give that much. And, fertility is going to become an issue. So sleep first and foremost, nourishment second. really spending time in nature. So we're on our computers, technology, EMF exposure, that's a whole thing we didn't get into.
Right.
And we build up these positive ions. Our body creates disease when we have a surplus of positive ions, and we need to move into a negative charge. And the earth is completely negative. And so if ever anyone has been an electrician or they understand grounding, you have a grounding wire, an electrical outlet. It's
Yeah.
because if like your refrigerator went haywire, the earth can handle that, excess electrical charge. And our bodies are the same. So we need to touch the earth, be in the earth to really bring in those negative ions into our life and to just like discharge whatever we are walking around with throughout the day. So time in nature is super huge. Creating places that bring you joy, not doing things that just deplete you on a soul level. And then I'm a big fan of, proper supplementation in the sense of, good vitamins and minerals. There's certain herbs that are really beautiful to help you. But if you don't have your stress, your sleep, and your nutrition under control, you can take all of the vitamins in the world and it's not going to help. So really focusing on the core foundations of your lifestyle and creating practical steps for that, and movement as well. Exercise is important, but if ever there's a time where like I have to pick sleep or exercise for fertility, I'd say sleep.
I think that's great. There's a lot there, and grounding is really an important part. Go barefoot as often as you can, not and in the ocean. If you get any chance around saltwater beaches, things of that nature, it's such a huge thing. You bring up as you're sharing, the nutritional part of it and supplementation. There's always been kind of, I think, a emphasis on prenatals, and maybe compare prenatal kind of approach to what you just shared, an overall wellness approach.
Yeah. So, supplements are always meant to be that, a supplement. They supplement your diet. They are not the end all be all. And so I'm a huge fan of food first. And I always teach a whole food approach. So what comes from the earth, what you can pick out of the ground, pick off a tree, up a bush, or what eats what comes from the earth. So, good quality protein sources. I am a fan of eating animal products when preparing for pregnancy. I think that there are certain nutrients and healing components that the body really responds well to in preparation for building another human. And so always looking to that first. I also recognize that our food is only as nutritious as the soil it's grown in. And, there's certain obstacles with getting all of the nutrients all of the time. And so, a prenatal should never be, I can eat a crappy diet, but I'm eating this prenatal and I'm going to be fine. It should always be eat as healthy as possible. And, a prenatal can be a great addition to build up the nutrients that you might not be getting every single day, depending on what you're exposed to, what's in season, what region of the world you live in.
Yeah, I agree. And it's one of those, it's kind of along that quick fix kind of mentality. Well, now I'm pregnant, now I'm going to do supplement. Well, maybe we should start that supplement thing a couple of years ago, and the whole concept of nutritional eating and that type of thing. And I share the same with my patients. And I do take supplements, and I think there's good value, and trying to find the quality ones isn't always easy. And trying to find the ones that are exactly for you isn't always easy. And that's why you can't just go in the store and say, hey, well, here's a bottle of prenatals and I'm good to go, kind of a deal. Yeah. Another area that I was kind of surprised, I didn't know you had a chiropractic connection. Being a chiropractor, I had to circle back on that. Have you had any experience with chiropractic adjustments helping fertility? I know there's a lot of anecdotal, and including in my office, I've had a couple anecdotal pregnancies, which is pretty exciting. But had you had any experience with that in your chiropractic experience in the past or even in the present?
Yeah, absolutely. I love chiropractic. Like I said, that was kind of my first exposure to a new paradigm of healthcare. And, I'm just such a believer in the naturopathic philosophy as well, is that the body has an innate ability to heal, and that, the same energy that heals a cut when you cut yourself is the same energy that grows a baby without you knowing what to do. Women have no idea what's going on. Their body's doing it. They're just doing the work. And there's this really intelligent force that is within us. And, our approach is remove the obstacles to cure. So whether that's toxins, stress, whatever that may be, and give the body what it needs, whether that's proper nutrients, sleep, water, all of that. And then, with chiropractic, I know there's similar philosophies aligned in that when everything is in balance, life force can flow, or there's different elements that just to really allow the body to be in its optimal state. And for me, fertility is just a side effect of optimal health. And there are, there are some really big obstacles, unfortunately, right now that we're seeing, which are the obstacles to that optimal health. But whatever you can do, whatever avenue or path you can take, whether that's lifestyle medicine, chiropractic, acupuncture, to get your body into that optimal alignment, that optimal health, the side effect is just infertility. It's just our natural being, just like you plant a seed in the soil and it grows into a plant. It's just how it is. It's just the life force of the world. And so absolutely, chiropractic I recommend all of the time for not only preconception and fertility, but also care during pregnancy and postpartum. I think it's so important. And just really giving the body this like proper alignment and what it needs to really thrive and flow.
Well, and I didn't mean to turn that into a chiropractic plug, but it's been kind of exciting a couple times in my career where patients have had troubles getting pregnant, and then getting adjusted was at least correlated to their opportunity. And I know that's been a common reality. I know a lot of chiropractors really put it out there to encourage patients to consider that. But I digress there a little bit. One of the things I was looking at in preparation for this interview is you really get into one of the most important parts of patient care, and I think very, very well, and that's patient history. Maybe share a little bit about how you really kind of try to dig a little bit in a different way when it comes to trying to evaluate the patient when they come to see you.
Yeah, no, that's a huge part of the way that I practice, is really taking a comprehensive understanding of you as a whole person. And so I do what's called a timeline, which is very common in the functional medicine world, but also paired with my naturopathic background of really understanding how all of the pieces that have ever come into contact with you as a being are important and where you are right now. So that starts even before birth, but how you were born, how you were raised, breastfeeding, the type of food you ate, traumas as a child, your dental health, history of food poisoning, how you feel in your relationship, the family history and potentials, and understanding your period and what was it like before birth control, what was it like after, like all of these different facets of you as a whole person from the very beginning of your existence till now on every plane, physical, mental, emotional, they all accumulate to basically the person that you are right now with whatever you're struggling or dealing with. And so for me, it really helps to find the root cause, or maybe the imbalance that's been missing that maybe wasn't caught by a traditional system or a traditional doctor. My appointments are 1.5 to 2 hours. And these kind of conversations and investigations just can't happen in a 15-minute appointment, with your traditional OB-GYN. And that's unfortunately why a lot of people, just don't get the help that they need. We're so much more complex than a 15-minute appointment. And so when it comes to fertility, again, fertility is the side effect of optimal health. And so I have to identify where there are issues in your optimal health, and your gut health, and your mental emotional health, and your toxicity health, and your nourishment, your lifestyle, all of it. So that's a huge part of what I do, is really that root cause factor.
And in that, not enough time to get into depth on all these things, but do you kind of encourage patients, or your married couples, the husbands, wives, men and women, to consider home births? And is there more? I mean, it's awesome that we have the hospital opportunity, but have you put a little bit more emphasis on helping people consider home births?
So when it comes to birth, the biggest thing is, again, that parasympathetic nervous system. So when you are in a sympathetic state, which is stress, your body is not going to want to deliver a baby. And if you look to nature, all animals will put themselves in a safe, dark, parasympathetic environment, because it is a physiological need of the body to be safe and feel not stressed, and to be in that parasympathetic mode in order to initiate labor. So what I always tell my patients is I want you to birth where you feel the most safe. And for some women, that's in the hospital. And for some women, that is not in the hospital. So we really talk about our options, what the pros and cons are of each. Some people might be hesitant at first about a home birth, not realizing how safe it is, especially if you're an uncomplicated pregnancy, and also taking the partner into account, and finding sometimes a middle ground with a birth center, which is really essentially just very similar to being in a hospital, but it feels like you're at home. And so I don't push one way or another. I personally wanted a home birth, and my daughter just would not come, even though I wasn't unsafe or felt anything like that. At 42 weeks, my labor wouldn't progress. And I legally in the state of California had to have a baby. And so I ended up having to go to the hospital, and she still didn't progress. And I ended up having to have a C-section, which was absolutely not my plan and what I wanted more, I did not want it at all. However, I think empowering women on wherever they feel the most powerful, wherever they feel the most safe, and preparing for that, and also understanding the surrender of birth, because that's a whole other thing we could talk about. So, I think that I teach my patients, regardless of which route, how to stand up for themselves and have an empowered birth. Doing things like delayed cord clamping, you can do in a hospital or at home, which greatly changes your child's health because of all of the blood that they need to not become anemic. And, there's so many things that we could go into with that, but there are ways to have an empowered birth in both places. And if they feel intuitively that the hospital is not going to let them do that, then potentially considering a home birth with a midwife or other practitioner.
I really like that. And another little editorial on my part here. I think, if we could teach the opportunities for the safety and serenity and positive, nature of having a baby at home is really, really awesome. But not to the exclusion of it. Like you said, you didn't want to do it, but you knew that, hey, if something happens, this is a great next step. And if something happens at that step, a great next step. It's like I tell people, surgery can be very, very beneficial, but let's not jump right into it. Let's see if we have to do that. And if we do, hey, then that's what we'll do. And after we have surgery, we'll recover, because ultimately, you had surgery and childbirth, it didn't quite go the way you'd hope, but, and now you have the post-surgery, and you got to say, hey, well, what do I do to deal with that surgical, procedure? So it's not a terrible thing. It's just, I think sometimes we're out of balance, just like with the prenatal, it's the big gun first, instead of, hey, well, let's just start fairly natural and work our way to where we have to go. And thank goodness we have the system, the medical system there to take care of us when we need it.
Yeah, exactly. That's called the therapeutic order in naturopathic medicine, where we always start on the lower rung and move our way up of the series of interventions. And I think our country and people's health would be in a very different place if we had that approach of the foundations first, trust nature first, and move up the rung as we need to. It's not a fight or a battle of what's better or worse. It's more like when one needed. And unfortunately, a lot of times those higher rung interventions are pushed when they are unnecessary or unneeded, and that causes complications in and of itself. So the intelligence of a medical system is putting the patient at the center and knowing when things are needed, whether it's chiropractic, surgery, nutrition, all of it is important at different times and different situations.
Yeah, I think that's just awesome. Well, boy, I really appreciate that. We're kind of hitting that time mark, but anything else that you, maybe a couple of summary points or anything else that you might want to share that we didn't cover so far?
Gosh, I feel like we covered a lot. I think the biggest thing to remember is, for anyone listening who wants to have a baby or is, just thinking about hormonal health, is to just get to the place where you feel optimal, where you feel vibrant, alive, and abundant in energy and all of those different elements and aspects. And if you don't, work with a knowledgeable practitioner or find resources to get you there, knowing that most likely the consequence of being in that optimal state will be optimal fertility, and to not wait too long to test and understand what's going on. Because what I don't want is for people to wait until they're in their late 30s or late 40s, then start to look at their fertility and then realize their only option is IVF or some other, procedure that is maybe not as fun. I had to do IVF to conceive. That was just the nature of our situation. But And if you do, there are natural ways to support yourself. Within that, you don't have to just follow the conventional model there, but yeah, to not wait to test and really work on your health now. It's never too late, no matter what your goals are.
That's awesome. So, how does one follow up with you? Are you taking patients? Do you do telehealth? How does that work?
Yeah, so I am opening up for a few telehealth clients. I do some root cause analysis, and then they can either continue to work with me and my team. So you can find me at womanhoodwellness.com, or you can follow me on socials at Dr. Leah Gordon on Instagram and TikTok. And I share a lot of good information there and have some freebies and things like that. So
Cool. And I think just touching it real briefly, you had some type of role in that HBO docuseries.
Yeah.
What is the docuseries that you were in, and what was the role that you had in that?
Yeah, so it was called Not So Pretty on HBO Max, and it's a documentary about toxins in our personal care products and the effect that they're having on our health. And I was in the element and the aspect of the episode on fertility. And so they interviewed me as a professional, as a doctor, and also followed my husband and I's infertility story. And so I think we're in episode 2 or 3 of the 4 series. And so if you're interested in watching that, and then I also have a bunch of courses, especially on male health. If anyone's interested in how to work up a male infertility case from a functional medicine perspective, and also what to do, lifestyle, diet, nutrition, all backed by all of the latest literature. And you can find that at womanhoodwellness.com. So both are great resources to educate yourself on all things. And I also hold monthly webinars and workshops. So if you're interested in diving deep on certain topics.
Well, I think all I can do is encourage our listeners to follow up with you. I know that your personal story is pretty intense, and so you're blessed with a child. How old now?
She's 8 months, and I love
8 months,
her.
and so that's very exciting. Congratulations!
Thank you.
But the journey was quite a journey, but ultimately it gave you a wonderful treasure that you get every day, but also your experience to be able to have not just sympathy but empathy with your patients it's just awesome that you have that journey to kind of lean on and to help people with. So so yeah, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.
Awesome. And everybody have a blessed day.